today I'm going to show you how to make this little ring. I'm going to show you the sides here, what it looks like, and the band. And I haven't really decided what to name this yet, so I'll name it when I finish this. But I think that we'll probably have some matching pieces to this ring. But first of all, let's look and see what we need to make this particular ring. Then we'll worry about the rest of the pieces later. So let's look at what we need for this project today. For this project today, you're going to need 12 4mm Bicone crystals. I am using a Swarovski, and I think it's a blue topaz. Then you will also need 12 3mm pearls, or glass pearls anyway, and this is just kind of a coppery, coffee colored glass pearl. Then you'll need an 11/0 seed bead. This is a Toho galvanized aluminum, and it's silver tone, of course. You will need a size 10 or 12 beading needle and some 8 or 6 pound Fireline. Now, because we are going to be sewing through these beads a lot, you may prefer to use a size 12 and 6 pound. However, I am going to use a size 10 and 8 pound today. Either one will work just fine. Let's go ahead and get started. So to start this project, you'll want to put a full wingspan of thread onto your needle. And then we will pick up a Bicone crystal, a 11/0 seed bead, a Bicone crystal, and 3 11/0 seed beads onto our needle, just like this. Then we will move this to the end of our thread and sew back through all the beads we put on from the tail side. So you don't have to leave a long tail, just enough to hold on to, and then sew back through all of the beads that you put onto your thread. Hold on to the beads and the thread and just coax these into a circle here, like so. Let's get a little bit closer. Now we're going to sew back through. I'm coming out of this bead right here. This is right where my tail is. I'm going to sew back through all of these beads that I put on. So I'm going to go into the Bicone crystal, the 11/0 seed bead, then the next Bicone crystal, and then I'm going to sew through these 3 11/0 seed beads right here, like so. Now my tail and my working thread are together here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a little overhand knot just to keep everything secure. Otherwise these beads will slide off as you're working, and it's not good. So just tie a little overhand knot or two, making sure the knots go down between the beads and not on top of them. Don't make it too bulky because you're going to be sewing through this again. So this is what we have now, just like this. We're coming out right here, right where we put our knot. We're going to come up through the crystal, and then we're going to go through the 11/0 seed bead and exit, like so. Make sure your tension is good, and then pick up a 3mm pearl, 3 11/0 seed beads, and a 3mm pearl, like so. We're coming out of this side of the 11/0. We're going to go into the opposite side of the 11/0 from which we're exiting. And we're going to pull these beads down like this. I'm going to turn this over, and then I am going to sew back through the little pearl here, and then I'm going to sew through my 3 11/0 seed beads, like so. Now this is what you should have. Now we're going to join these 11/0 seed beads with these 11/0 seed beads by adding 3 more 11/0 seed beads onto our needle. So go ahead and put on 3, like this. We're coming out of these 3 11/0 seed beads. We're going to skip over the pearls and the Bicone crystals, and we're going to go into the first set of 3 that we put on right here. And we're going to pull. As you draw this down, you will draw all of the 11 O's together and they will start to curve. So you want to pull it together tight like that. Then you're going to pick up 3 more 11 O seed beads, and you're coming out of this set of 3 here. We're going to skip over this crystal and this pearl, and we're going to go into the 3 seed beads right above the pearls here. And as we pull these together, we're going to draw this tight. Now we're going to sew through this set of 3. So we're coming out of this set of 3 here. We're going to sew through this set of 3 here. I'm going to turn it over so you can see where I'm at. So I am right here in this corner here where my tail is. I'm going to sew back down into the 3 11 O seed beads right above the bicone crystals. Now I want to get over to this side here. So I'm going to sew down these 3 here, and then we will start building our next unit. So right here, actually I want to go underneath the pearls, so we're going to go into one more set. So what we've done is just sew all the way around the 11 O's so that there is 2 threads running through each one. So just make sure that you've sewn all the way around again, and now you can see this has formed a square. Now we're coming out of the set of 3 11 O's right underneath our pearl section of our unit here. So what we need to do is we need to make another unit here. And we want our pearls to be next to each other. So we will start with a pearl, then we will pick up an 11 O seed bead, and then we will pick up a pearl like so. Then we're coming out of this side of the 11 O's. We are going to go into that same section of 3 11 O's, and we will pull these beads down like so. And this is what you should have. Now we are going to sew up the pearl right next to where your needle is exiting, or your thread is exiting, and then up through the 11 O right on top of that pearl, and we're going to exit that 11 O. Then we are going to pick up a bicone crystal, an 11 O seed bead, or actually 3 11 O seed beads, excuse me, and a bicone crystal. So this is what you'll have on your needle: a bicone, 3 11 O's, and a bicone. You're coming out of this little 11 O here. You're going to go into the opposite side from which you're exiting, like so, and you're going to pull these beads down, like this. Now we're going to sew up this crystal and through the 3 11 O's. I'm going to turn my piece over just so it's easier for me to get to. I'm going to go up the crystal right here. Then I'm going to sew through these 3 11 O seed beads like so. Pull your tension tight like this. Now we need to make another section of 11 O's so that we can join to this section of 11 O's and start to make our base unit of right angle weave. So we're going to pick up 3 more 11 O seed beads onto our needle like this, and we're coming out of this section of 11 O's. We're going to skip over this bicone and this pearl and go into this middle section of 11 O's. Push the needle through here. Now we're going to draw these together. Now this is important that you draw these together neatly. Make sure that there's no slack in your thread here. This will kind of dome the crystal and pearl section on the other side. That's what you want to happen. So pick up 3 more 11-0 seed beads. You're coming out of the middle section of 11-0s here. We're going to skip over this pearl and this bicone and go into this section of 3 11-0 seed beads. And pull and draw it all together. Now, we have 2 sections, but you can see this corner is kind of loose, and our unit will fall apart if we don't go around it one more time. So what we need to do is we need to go up these 3 here, then we'll go through the middle section again, and this is where it can get a little tight in this middle section, especially on this first unit here. So that's why I recommend maybe using a smaller thread and needle. Now we're coming out of the middle section here. I'm going to turn this over so you can see where we're at. Now we have pearls together in the middle here and bicones on the outside, and we want to maintain that look. So what we're going to do is we're coming out of this little middle section here. We're going to go up into these 3 bicone crystals right here on the side here, and we're going to start our next unit. Now we're going to work this way, so we're going to need a crystal and then 11-0 and then a pearl so that we can maintain the pearls on the inside and the crystals on the outside. Since we're coming out towards the crystal, we'll pick up a crystal first, and then we will pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and then we will pick up a pearl. We're coming out of this side of these 3 11-0 seed beads. We're going to go into the inside, the opposite side, and pull these beads down. We'll be working through 3 11-0 seed beads through the whole process here. Now, we're coming out of the 11-0 seed beads here. We're going to come up this crystal, then we're going to go into the 11-0 between the crystal and the pearl. Make sure there's no slack in your thread. We want to keep this all very tight. Then you're going to pick up, we're coming out of this 11-0. We're coming out towards the area where we want our pearls. So we're going to pick up a pearl first. And then we're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads. And then we're going to pick up a crystal. So we have a pearl, 3 11-0 seed beads, and a crystal. We're coming out of the 11-0 here. We're going to go into the opposite side from which we're exiting, and we're going to pull these down and around, just like this. Now we're coming out of the 11-0 right here. We need to go into the pearl that we just added. Pull your thread very tightly. This needs to stay very tight. And then we're going to go up these 3 11-0 seed beads. This can get very messy, so make sure that you're constantly checking your tension as you do each step. Now, this is what we have. Now we need to turn it over, and we need to create our bottom section here. We're going to share these beads in our first unit. So we're coming out of these 3 11-0 seed beads. We're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, like this. We're going to skip over these crystals, and we're going to go into this section of 3 11-0 seed beads, and we're going to pull the 3 we just added down, and that will draw the first 3 together. Then we need to join these 11-0s with these 11-0s, so we're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, like so. We're going to skip over the pearls and go down into these 3 11-0 seed beads here, like so. Draw them all together very tightly. And now we need to sew. See, we're coming out here, but we need to include this section of 311 and this section of 311 to get back up to this section so that it's all tight and it's all pulled together. If we just started working this way, then our unit would fall apart. So we need to go through these three here. Then we need to go up through the middle section here. Pull them tightly. Then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to go through these three 11-0s right here. And this is where I will begin building my next unit. Now, when we do this, we want to make sure that we always look at where we're at. So we're right here by the pearls. We want to add a unit of pearls here. So we will pick up a pearl. You just have to look and see what is needed for your next unit. You know that you need your pearls to be together, so we're going to pick up a pearl, an 11-0 seed bead, and a pearl. And we're coming out of this side of these three 11-0s. We're going to go into the opposite side of the three 11-0s that we're exiting from and pull these pearls tight, like so. Now we need to sew up into the 11-0, so I'm going to go up through this pearl and into the 11-0 and exit the 11-0 of the beads I just added. Then, now I need to add my section of crystal. As you build this, you will see what you need because you want your pearls on the inside and you want your crystal on the outside. So we need a crystal and we need three 11-0 seed beads and a crystal. We're coming out of this side of the 11-0. We're going to go into the opposite side of the 11-0 and pull these crystals down. And now we need to tighten the beads we just put on. So we're coming out of the 11-0. We're going to go up into this crystal here. Get my tail out of there. Then we're going to go up into the three 11-0 seed beads right here. And then we're going to turn our unit over. Now we need to join these 11-0s with these 11-0s here. So we will add three 11-0s onto our needle, like so. We're coming out of these three 11-0 seed beads. We're going to go into these three 11-0 right here. As we pull them down, make sure your unit draws with the crystal on the outside. So on the bottom, since we're holding it upside down, you just want to make sure that the crystals draw out and that your 11-0s draw up towards the top here. And then sew up through the next three 11-0s. And then through the next set of three 11-0s, drawing your unit together. As I said, this can get really messy, so make sure that your units are really nice and tight. This is what this looks like so far. This is what it looks like on this side. I'm going to sew through these three 11-0s right here. And as you can see, my unit wants to pull apart, so I need to sew through the entire unit again. So I'm going to go ahead and sew through these three here. And draw it all together. I have a thread that's not pulling through. There we go. Then I'm going to sew through these three middle ones. And I need to work my way all the way to the outside again so that I can start my next unit. So I'm just going to sew around this entire set here. And then I will check my tension, turn it over, and this is where I will begin my last set here. Okay, so we're coming out of these little 11-ohs here after making our last unit here. So we're going to come up, we want to add our next unit here, so we're going to come up these 3 right here. And this is where we will make our next unit. Now I'm starting up here and I'm going to be going down into this bottom part of these 3 that I just exited from. So I know that on this section I'm going to have to pick up a purl, an 11-oh, and then a bicone. Because I'm coming this way, I want my purl on the inside, I want my crystal on the outside, so that you know that you'll need to pick up the 2 of them on this unit. And then we're coming out of this side of the 3 11-ohs. We're going to go into the opposite side, like so, and we're going to pull these beads down, just like this. Then we need to sew up through the purl and exit the 11-oh. So let me just turn a little bit here. I'm going to sew up through these 2 beads, and then again I will check my tension, because as I sew through them, a lot of times it'll loosen up. Then I'm coming out of this 11-oh seed bead here. I know I need a crystal, and then 3 11-ohs and a purl. So I will pick up a crystal. Just look at the way your units are coming together and you will know what bead to go with next. Pick up 3 11-oh seed beads, and then a purl. You're coming out of the 11-oh here, go into the 11-oh on the opposite side, and pull your beads down, like so. Now, let's sew up through this crystal, and then into our 3 11-ohs, so we can join the 11-ohs together by adding more 11-ohs and joining with our previous unit. So this is what we have. I'm going to turn it over. I need to join these 11-ohs with these 11-ohs, so I'm going to pick up 3 more 11-ohs. I'm going to go into this vertical set here of 11-ohs, skipping over the top of my purls, and pull them together like so. Now I'm going to turn my piece and I'm going to pick up 3 more 11-oh seed beads. I'm coming out of this side here of the 11-ohs. I want to skip over the crystals and go into the next set of 3 here. And just go through 3 so you maintain your square shape as you pull, just like that. Now my unit is not joined completely together, so I am going to sew all the way around it again. I'm going to go through those 3 11-ohs, through these 3 11-ohs here. This also strengthens your piece. Seems like a lot of sewing around, but it's going to give it some strength. Rings need to be very strong because they really get beat up, and it gets you where you need to be for your next unit. So we're going to sew all the way around. Now we're going to roll this over so you can see where I'm at. Now I need to join or to make one more unit here. So I need to come through these center 11-ohs right here, and I need to make another unit. Now I know I'm going to start joining from this little middle section here. I know I need a section of purls. So I'm going to pick up purl, an 11-oh, and a purl. I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into the opposite side of the 3 11-0s that I'm exiting from and pull my pearls down like so. Now I'm going to sew up through the pearl that I'm next to and then exit the 11-0. Check my tension, make sure it's nice and tight. Everything's very neat. Then I need to build the other half. So I need to pick up a bicone crystal, 3 11-0 seed beads, and a bicone crystal. I'm coming out of this side of the 11-0. I'm going to go into the opposite side right here. And I'm going to pull these down. Now I need to get up into the 11-0s again, so I'm going to go up through this crystal right here into my 3 11-0 seed beads and exit. I'm going to turn this over. Now you can see that I have my 3 11-0s here. I also have 3 11-0s here. So I don't need to add anything onto my needle at this point. I'm going to join this set of 3 11-0s with this set. So I'm coming out there. I'm going to go into these 3 center ones here. They're laying kind of funny. They're really not thread tight. They're just kind of laying funny for me to get my needle through. So I just finagle these here. There we go. Pull it through. Draw it up tight. Then I'm going to go into these 3 center here. And now I have 3 sides of my square. I need to make my last little side here. So this is where we will pick up 3 more 11-0 seed beads. And I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into this side here to join them together. Pull my tension very tightly. And now I'm coming out of this section here, but you can see we're still not joined. We're loose, so we have to go into this section again, right here. And then we will go up the middle section, right here. And at this point, I want to make sure everything's nice and tight. Now, this is what you have. This is what it looks like. Now, I want to keep this I want to kind of make it dome around my finger like this. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. We're coming out of this little section right here. I want to sew into these 3 here so I can get to my longer outside edge here. Now I'm going to sew into these 3 here, and then I will sew into the next 3 also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to join this section, and this section of the 11-0s together. So I'm just going to sew through, see if I can get both sections at the same time. I can't. So I'm just going to go through these 3 here, pull my needle through, or my thread through anyway. Then I'm going to go through the next section of 3. And it takes a little finagling. They're not thread tight. What the issue is that they're laying at funny little angles. Sometimes it's hard to get your needle through. So just pull it through, draw them together, then go through the next section right here. Pick up the next 3 seed beads. This is going to bend your needle all up and all that good stuff, but it happens. Pull your needle through. At this point, I'm going to cut this tail off. I'll leave a little length so I can melt it down in a little bit, but I just want to get rid of most of it here. Okay, so I'm going to draw those together. They're going to kind of dome my little piece together. Now I don't want to draw it really tight, just enough to where it domes it a little bit. Now I'm going to turn the corner and I'm going to go through these first 3 seed beads right here. Now I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and place it between these 2 sets because I really don't want this to draw funny. I want it to lay straight so it'll be a nice side for my ring. So I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and then I'm going to go into the next set of 3 11-0s and then I will pull this 11-0 I picked up down in between these. If I can get this. There we go. Go through this set of 3 and only 3. Just like this. Pull this little 11-0 down between the 2 sets. Pop it in there. Turn the corner and again go through your 3 11-0s here. If you can go through the next set, that's great. We're just going to draw them together. So we're going to sew through all the 11-0s on the side here without adding anything in between them. Just like so. Now, you can see this is starting to curve my piece a little bit. See the little curve? Now, I need to turn the corner and add my little 11-0 between these 2 sets. So I'm going to go up through the first set here. Sure I am. There we are. And then I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead. Then I'm going to go into the second set. Now as you can see, these are kind of all bungled up, so it's going to be hard for me to get through all of them. But I'm going to try. I only want to go through 3, just like so. And this is what you should have. Just like that. Now we're going to make the side of our ring, like on this ring here. We're going to make this side. And how we're going to do that is we're coming out of the corner here. We're going to pick up 9 11-0 seed beads onto our needle. So just pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 11-0 seed beads. Now we're coming out of this side. We're going to go all the way over to this side. This is going to take a little finagling. Go through the first 3 because the one you added kind of pops out. So you're not going to be able to grab it at the same time that you grabbed the first 3. So just go through the first 3 like so. At this point, you may need to get a pair of chain nose pliers or flat nose pliers or something like that and pull it through because it is getting a bit tight. Pull these around like so, and then trying to fix my thread. Okay, and then go through the little 11-0 you popped in, and then the next 3 11-0s on the bottom here. Like so. And pull it through. That'll pull this up into a loop like this. Now, if you would like, you can sew through all of these and then sew back up through the top again if you'd like to make it stronger. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm coming out of the corner here now. I'm going to sew into 6 of my beads. So there's 3 there, and then I'm going to go through 3 more, and I'm going to exit the 6th bead, just like this. I'm going to turn it over so you can see what I'm doing here. Now, I will pick up 3 11-0 seed beads onto my needle, like so. I will count over 3 11-0s, so I'm exiting here. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go into the 3rd bead. And then I'm going to exit the bead that I started right there. Okay, so you're just going to go into 3 beads and pull the 3 beads you added around. So basically we're going to create a ladder stitch. So you're going to sew up through 6, then you're going to come back and around through 3 of them, like so. Now I'm going to sew through the 3 that I just added. Because this is a band, I'm going to double this. So I'm going to go back through the 3 on my little loop that I created. Then back through the 3 I started with. Or that I just added, excuse me. Then I will pick up 3 more. So this is basically just a ladder stitch with 3 beads. So you're coming out of this side, we're going to go into the opposite side. Pull them tight, make sure your tension is good. Sew back down. Do the 3 that you just added. Pull tight, go back through the previous set of 3. Go back through the 3 you just started in, or that you just added, excuse me. It's getting late, I'm tired. I am not saying the right words. Pick up 3 more. Coming out of this side, go into this side. And we're just going to continue doing this until the band is how long you want it for your ring. So you can use a ring mandrel or you can use your finger. But you're going to want to create as many units of ladder stitch as you're going to need to go around your finger. You want to leave a little bit of room because you have your loop here. So you're going to create your ladder stitch until you're about there on your finger. And then we will make another loop. So you don't want to go all the way around. Your ring will be too big. Just stop just a little bit before you get all the way around. I'm going to make, excuse me, about a size 8 ring. So I will create my units and count them for you and let you know how many I'm making. And then you can kind of judge from there how many you want to make for yours. And like I said, you can try it on a ring mandrel or you can just judge it on your finger. We'll be back as soon as we've created enough units to go around our finger. Okay, so as you can see, I have made my band as long as I think I will need it for my finger. I'll show you how short I left it here. You want to stretch it around your finger and just leave it just a few units short, like this. So I have made, for my finger, I have made 15 units, not counting the loop I made here. I'm counting from this section. So I'm not counting the loop, I'm counting my first section of ladder stitch. So from here, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So I made 15 of them. Now I'm coming out of the end of my ladder stitch here. I'm going to pick up 3 11-0s onto my needle. I'm going to go over to the opposite side of the ring and I'm going to go into the corner bead here and I'm going to sew back up through all of these beads again. So I'm going to I went as far as I could. I'm going to pull my thread through, and then I'm going to pick up the ones that I missed. So I'm just going to sew through all of the beads here on this little top line right there. And pull the beads down that I just added to join to my band. Now I'm going to pick up 3 more 11-0 seed beads, and I'm coming out of the corner here. I'm going to go into the first unit of ladder stitch right there, and I'm going to pull it tight. Now my thread is getting awfully short. I didn't use quite a full wingspan, and you really should make sure you put on a full wingspan for this unit, for this project. Now, if your finger's smaller than mine, which a lot of people's are, then you will be doing less ladder stitch, and you'll probably be fine with your thread. But make sure you use a full wingspan, maybe even a little bit over, maybe 5, 6, 3 or 4 inches over, something like that. Anyway, now we need to come back up into the beads that we're connecting to, come back through the top beads. Just take your time doing it. They're difficult to pass through. Continue going through. Don't stab yourself like I just did. And then here, I will go back down through the 3 beads I added to it. Now you should sew through a couple of times just to make sure that it's nice and strong. I'm going to go back into my ladder stitch, and then I'm going to grab a 1/2 hitch knot here on the thread bridge on my ladder stitch. Since my thread was short. That was a good stab. I actually made myself bleed. Oh, you guys see how much I love you? I bleed for you. Anyway, I'm going to cut this off and burn it down to create another knot. If you have more thread than I did, you should sew through your ladder stitch and do a couple of knots just to secure it. Then I'm going to burn down my end here and see what I've got. And that's what I've got. And here's the one I made earlier. It's going to be too big for that finger, but I'll put it on there anyway. And that's what it looks like. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And I will be making a couple of matching pieces for this real soon, so keep an eye out for that. Anyway, see you later. Bye-bye.